أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is study number 7 of the Ramadan daily Quran studies for the year 2022, presented by myself, Zahid Aziz, on behalf of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman-e-Shaat Islam, Lahore, UK. And continuing with prayer, the topic for this study is humility in prayer. The feeling of humility before God in prayer is emphasized in the Holy Quran. We have already seen the verse which I read out in the last study, that successful indeed are the believers who are humble in their prayers. Chapter 23, the first 2 verses. And near the beginning of the Holy Quran, it is stated as a teaching which was given to the Israelites, to the Bani Israel. And of course, it then becomes a teaching which applies to Muslims also. And that teaching is as follows. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابَ فَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُم مُّلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That keep up prayer and give the zakat, the due charity, and bow down with those who bow down. Warka'u marrakain. Do you tell people to be good and neglect your own souls while you read the book? Have you no sense? And seek assistance through patience and prayer. And this is hard except for the humble ones, who know that they will meet their Lord and that to him they will return. Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verses 43 to 46. And here the words bow down with those who bow down indicate congregational prayer, prayer in a group, or in a Jamaat as it's called. And here again it's stated that the acts of praying and giving in charity are not sufficient just as acts and actions. Sincerity is required. Now, to tell people to do good, by which you portray yourself as very religious, but neglecting to do it yourself, what you're telling other people to do, is condemned here very strongly. Do you tell people to be good and neglect your own souls while you read the book, while you're aware of the teachings of the book? Have you then no sense? This is what that quotation from the Quran stated, which I just read. Prayer is the means of seeking the assistance of God. A person must persist with patience in his efforts to achieve self-improvement, and he must turn to prayer. Prayer feels a hard thing and is unproductive of results unless a person assumes an attitude of humility and takes prayer to be the way of meeting God. And this is what is stated here in the last quotation which I read, that seek assistance to patience and prayer. And this is hard except for the humble ones who know they will meet their Lord. So prayer seems unproductive of results unless a person is humble and takes prayer to be a way of meeting God. Now, what does humility mean? Humility means that when praying, we must think of our own selves standing before God as being that we are entirely powerless and totally totally reliant on him to achieve anything. And we think of ourselves before God not as holy or high and mighty, not as someone who's doing some benefit to God, doing some favor to God by our prayer, but we must stand before him as ordinary sinners and mortals, however high we may be in this life. Prayer with humility is mentioned in a number of places in the Holy Quran, such as Udu Rabbakum Tazarru'an wa Khufya. Call on your Lord humbly and in secret. Chapter 7, verse 55. And then elsewhere it stated, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُن مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. And remember your Lord within yourself, inside yourself, فِي نَفْسِكَ, humbly and fearing, and in a voice not loud, in the morning and in the evening. And do not be one of the careless, one of the heedless ones. وَلَا تَكُن مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. In other words, you are يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ, that those who are with your Lord are not too proud to serve him, and they glorify him and prostrate themselves before him. So these are the people who are close to God. Although some say this refers to angels, that those who are with your Lord are not proud of serving him, worshipping him, and glorifying him. But of course, it refers to people who wish to be with the Lord, that they should not be too proud to serve him and glorify and prostrate before him. And here within yourself, which is in this verse, remember your Lord within yourself, in your soul, means that the remembrance of the Lord, whether in prayer or outside prayer, must firstly be from the heart. And it must be accompanied by feelings of humility within yourself and feelings of awe and reverence for God. And also, except for the loud recitation by the Imam in the congregational prayer, any other prayer must be said in a low voice at the most. And this is to do with the regular established prayers that I'm talking about. And in another place in the Quran where this the humility is emphasized and the softening of the heart, it stated, Alam yana lillazina amanu an takhsha qulubahum li zikrillahi wa ma nazala min al-haq. Has not the time yet come for the believers? It is talking about Muslims here, for the believers, that their hearts should be humble for the remembrance of Allah and for the truth which is revealed. And then it goes on to say, the same verse, وَلَا يُكُونُ كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. And that they should not become like the nations before them who were given the book. But what happened to them was that as time passed, after the lapse of a long time, their hearts hardened. Fakasat qulubuhum, their hearts hardened, and it's therefore most of them are transgressors. In other words, they are doers of wrong things. And this is chapter 57, verse 16. This verse warns Muslims not to become like the followers of earlier religions, the early religions which were sent by God, which were revealed by God to those people. Due to the passage of time, those earlier nations became hard-hearted. That is to say, their hearts did not melt with humility before God. And this clearly begins this verse with the words, has not the time yet come for the believers, that their hearts should be humbled. So it indicates that Muslims also, with the passage of a long time after the coming of Islam, would lose humility of heart. And losing humility of heart while still performing prayer and other religious duties means that you start considering yourselves as God's chosen ones, regardless of the deeds, the misdeeds which you are unfortunately committing. So this verse is a warning against that. And that is the end of this study 7. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim wa tub alaina innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Amin.